Hello, everybody, and welcome to DETOX, Nourish, Activate, plant and vibrational medicine for energy, mood, and love with Adora Winquist, who is joining us tonight from Mexico. You have to tell us where in Mexico again, Adora.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Anne. I'm actually in the state of Nayarit in Mexico in a very small town called Sayulita, where the jungle meets the ocean, and it's really remarkable and incredibly lovely. I was hoping to have the ocean as a backdrop, but because of the brightness of the light, I would be completely washed out, but just know it's right here. So again, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to launch and share about the potent alchemy in my new book, Detox, Nourish, Activate, Plant and Vibrational Medicine for Energy, Mood, and Love. And it's co-authored with my colleague and ally with the plants, Dr. Lulu Shamik. And so it's a wonderful and what we like to call a revolutionary guide to personal growth, empowerment, and healing at the level of our DNA, being able to heal through generations of past trauma and energy consciousness that we've carried through lifetimes up into this moment. And so it's a book that focuses on three primary systems of the body: the adrenal system, which connects, of course, into our energy, the heart, which relates to love, and then the brain and the nervous system that relate to mood. And so when we started to look at our past and numerous decades of experience working with clients and patients, and of course, our own healing journey, which is profound and so imperative, because how can you take, whether it's a client or a reader, further than one has gone in their own healing journey or their own journey of awakening and transformation. So we really sat down and had a conversation about why is it that we continue to perpetuate the same patterns, whether it's chronic disease or emotional imbalance or patterns of disharmony in our bank account or in our relationships, or, simple things like, why am I so tired all of the time? And so asking ourselves these questions and then finding the parallels between these three core systems of the body brought us to the place of detox, nourish, and activate. And I think this is really interesting and unique because these three phases of healing are imperative for sustainable shifts in our emotions, in our physical health and vibrancy, and of course, our spiritual understanding and awakening process. So imagine if you decide to go to your local health food store, a store that has every beautiful aspect of food or nutritional supplements or self-care items to delight you in every way that you want to take care of yourself, right? From the highest perspective. And you spend an unlimited amount of money at the store. And you bring everything home and you open up your refrigerator or you open up your cabinets or you open up the door to your home. And let's say the refrigerator is teeming and overflowing with food that is breaking down, right? That is rotting, right? So we can't put any beautiful nutrition into that refrigerator because the bacteria will contaminate the new food that we've just spent all of this money on to be able to take care of ourselves in the highest way. The same thing, how can we bring in these aspects for meditation and clear thinking into a home that is cluttered and where there's continuous disarray? So the detox aspect of this healing process is really paramount for us to be able to let go of the things that no longer serve the highest of who we are. And whether it's a pattern or a habit or an addiction, or just the way that we take care of ourselves or a lack around that, letting go of those old ways that we know don't work anymore, allow us to move into a place of nourishment. And for me, this is really where my focus is right now, being on this trip in Mexico, being able to nourish my physical body and my spirit, especially after the past month where my mother transitioned and passed on. So it's been a very full time, especially when I was on the Vineyard a few weeks ago, going through all of the logistics from a planning and emotional perspective regarding the loss of such a key and instrumental figure and part of my heart and my soul. And so the areas and aspects to nourish our being, whether it's good food, lots of rest, meditation, reflection. I've been doing a wonderful process of hot sweats in the sun and then having a cold bath, which is a wonderful way to not only nourish the body, but increase our circulation and really help our metabolism jump up. Nourishing things can be like exercise as well, beautiful music and reading wonderful words. And so the aspects of nourishment are key for us to bring our system back into a place of balance and fortification for us to activate our soul's deepest longings. And so when we move into the activation phase, it's really about taking those seeds that we've always wanted to plant and flourish in our lives, whether it's in our core relationships. And of course, our primary relationship is one with ourselves, the way that we care for, the way that we love ourselves, have compassion for ourselves, forgiveness when it's needed. And of course, the way that we can move into relationships with abundance and great physical health and energy and vitality, that moves into the activation stage where we can actually create the life of our dreams. So I think that these aspects and this kind of continuum of detox, nourish, activate is really powerful when we look at sustainable shifts of healing. And when we look at places of breaking free of those old patterns and old limitations that stop us from living life to the fullest. And then, of course, we intertwine aspects of alchemy from the plant kingdom, from the mineral kingdom, from the animal kingdom. So essential oils, herbs, flower essences, crystals, vibrational remedies based on crystal and flower essences. And things like meditation and nutrition, which are also, of course, incredibly important.
You touch on so much in that introduction. I love detox, nourish, and activate. And I also love the way you tie everything into that. Like I personally love start with a neat house and a clean refrigerator, right? And you wouldn't,
it's so important.
It's yes, I think it's underrated, and you're absolutely right. It doesn't do any good to bring in a bunch of healthy organic food if you still have, yes. Where's a good place to start, Adora? Like, or I guess different people would start in different places. But what do you like? So if you have someone who's kind of all over the place, is not eating right, is probably not getting enough exercise, and how do you figure out where a person should focus their energy?
Mm-hmm. That's a really wonderful question. Well, I think I want to answer it from a multifaceted perspective. So one, when we think about healing, I like to refer to the infinity symbol, and you'll see this throughout our book, really connecting into the concept of infinite healing. And so when you look at the infinity symbol that has an elliptical on each side and then a concentric point, I love this model for healing because it speaks to us of the power of both pathways, right? We can't just address our physical health and well-being, right? If we're just working with exercise and nutrition, that addresses our physicality, but we're multifaceted beings. We're multidimensional beings. We have our physical nature, but we also have our emotional nature, our mental nature, and our spiritual desires and longings as well. So from a perspective of infinite healing, we look to address it everything from the physical level, but also the energetic level. So using essential oils and with their potency from an olfactory perspective, working with the nervous system, and then of course, holographically, viscerally down to the cellular level is super potent not only biochemically, physically, but also energetically and vibrationally as well. When we work with meditation, with mudras, with sacred geometry, and essences, right? Flower essences and crystal essences. These are vibrational remedies that help to bring balance to our psycho-spiritual aspects of being. Our psycho-spiritual dynamics and esoteric philosophies are also paramount for us to be able to address what we hold at the subconscious level. So from that perspective, where do we start? I believe that it first starts with an invitation, right? Inviting a new level of healing into our beings, a new way to live life, a new way to interact with ourselves, our self-care, a new way that we commune and communicate with others. And from that perspective of invitation, we can then move into an affirmation. And affirmations combined with intention are really powerful because they support shifts at the cellular level. And so giving ourselves permission to be healthy and whole physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually is profound. Giving ourselves the permission to be as big and bright as we possibly can changes our dynamics and our outlook on life. And so these are simple steps, beginning steps, but all it takes is 1 or 2 steps to get yourself on the path, right? And then you begin navigating your own healing spiral, looking at aspects of what I like to call our treasure map, our childhood treasure map that holds all of the aspects of the dynamics from our early childhood constellations, which I believe contain all of the roots for what we've come into this lifetime to heal and grow and transform from. And so when we start to look at the patterns that were held in our early child dynamics and consciousness, we can begin to bring the focus of our intention and healing energy and connecting with the energy of the divine consciousness to bring new levels of understanding to ourselves, right? Understanding our path and then ultimately our purpose. And then clearing out everything that stands in the way of your path and purpose. So you can ultimately experience life from the perspective of liberation, the freedom to express the full authenticity of who you are and thrive in every area and aspect of being.
I am so glad that we are recording this because I'm going to listen to this over and over. I'm trying to take notes as fast as you talk, as you talk, and you touched on sacred geometry, which I don't hear that often in this realm of conversation, and I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, I think that it's really important because it's about that infinite perspective, right? And when we're looking at the infinity symbol and addressing health and wholeness and well-being from our physical nature, of course, we have to address it from our vibrational nature. And then my belief is that at that concentric point of the infinity symbol is the 0 point field of limitless creation. It is a dimension where once we can come to the clarity and understanding of ourselves and our truth, our authenticity, our light, and really the longings that are held on a soul level, we can begin to create life from beyond a perspective of limitation by working with that alchemy. And you'll find throughout the book, there are many variations of specific sacred geometry that Dr. Lulu and I actually designed. So they're unique to this healing process of detoxing, nourish, and activating those 3 key systems of the body. So I think that you'll really enjoy that and enjoy the section on sacred geometry that is actually part of what we call the freedom photon wheel. And so you'll see this image throughout the book that has the DNA symbol in the center because we're, of course, focusing on healing and shifting at the level of our DNA, which is really a portal to our mother and father bloodlines. And I'll come back to that in just a moment. But the freedom photon wheel has 11 aspects in it. And so there's 11 alchemical interventions, including the sacred geometry and the essential oils and the nutrition and the botanicals that we work with in each of those specific phases of healing and transformation. And so within that, there are many discovery guides and places to become deeply introspective with yourself and your journey and what you really long for out of life. And my philosophy is that every single moment, every step that we've taken on our pathway to this moment in time is perfect, right? In an imperfect and relative nature, but it is perfectly guided us to this moment to bring the potency of the present moment, to harness that with the energies, the alchemical energies of the natural world, to bring quantum levels of shift to our consciousness and throughout our being holographically, right down to our DNA level.
So I couldn't agree with you more. But so to get in touch with the soul, because I think in our society, the way we live here in the Western world, our soul is not, we don't listen to that. It's our soul. But would you say the way to get in touch with the soul is through the meditation and the nourishment and the activation? And
Absolutely. I think that, my slogan for my Adora Winquist platform is your soul work is your soul work. And so each of us have this quintessence and light that we carry at the level of our soul. And embedded within that is the unique gifts that we have to bring to this world for the most benevolent change of the world, but of ourselves first and primarily. And that's how we're able to, through that excavation process of finding that within ourselves and peeling away our own aspects and subconscious patterns and limitations and past trauma, then we're able to excavate and find that quintessence to understand our gifts, why we have them, and how we can bring them to the world for the most positive and significant impact.
that sounds very hopeful. You were touching on the mother-father bloodline.
Ah, yes. Okay, so, and I love talking about this because it's like such a profound concept, but when we bring it in a very simplistic perspective, it's just really a game changer. So if we think about each one of the trillions of cells that we have in our body, they are imprinted with intelligence. Our cells communicate through light, through biophotons. And so this intelligence and energy that's held within our cells is held holographically throughout our being and each of our energy fields. And so if you think about each of our cells that are embedded also with our DNA, right? So that's every experience that we have ever had since the moment of conception, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So that right there is just an incredible concept. But to take it a step further, to understand that every experience that our mother has had and our father has had is also contained therein. And then through our lineages, right, with our mother's mothers and our mother's fathers and so on down each bloodline. And so to me, we are ultimately these incredible walking miracles that truly have the power to change not just this moment and this experience and expression of ourselves and our DNA, but when we're able to heal these deep places and patterns that have been held generationally, we're able to heal the past to ultimately completely transform our futures, generation by generation. And so it's such an incredible gift that we have with our lives to be able to bring healing and that light of divine consciousness, right? What is above and what is below, with the sacred nature of the earth and all of the beautiful aspects of healing medicines that we have through the nature intelligence from the plant kingdom and from the mineral kingdom, and the great wisdom from the animal kingdom and spirit medicine that's available there, that we can shift truly quantum levels of our being.
That's marvelous. I'm going to go to a question from Nev, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And this is absolutely something that I would like to know also. Can you recommend a school of thought or a study that can help us on this path? And that, go ahead.
A school of thought or study in terms of research.
Ned, you want to unmute yourself? And I was going to ask too, I sort of want to know where's my soul is screaming to me. We have got to do this, girl.
I love it.
There she is.
It sounds pretty complex, the components you're sort of touching on. And I was wondering, is there an established form of either meditation or philosophy that you feel, this all would stem from?
So that's a great question. Thank you. So let me give you a little bit of some different perspectives or areas that you can source for yourself from that perspective. So number one, if you go through and look at the reference section and the bibliography of our book, you'll find a lot of really beautiful and rich resources for this. My background, part of it is from the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, which is really the leading educator for vibrational medicine in the US, but actually globally, because there's schools all over the world. This was started by Barbara Ann Brennan many, many years ago. I think, gosh, maybe 40 years ago. She was a biophysicist at NASA and began to study energy, and then began to look at how the psychodynamics interplay with that, and began to look at the chakra system, which of course is thousands of years old from Vedic philosophy, Indian philosophy. So, I mean, these are two small kind of areas, but if you start to look at philosophy from a Indian perspective and looking at the chakra system and how it correlates to our physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual well-being, there's a great mapping for that. If you're looking at some of the aspects of the psychodynamic piece that I'm talking about, the work of Barbara Brennan is wonderful. Also the path work, which existed before the Brennan work by Eva Parakos, is a wonderful resource. If you're looking at some of the aspects of essential oils or botanical medicine, there are many books before ours that are out there, and of course, ancient philosophy and practices around that. And so if you look at my website, and there are a number of resources in the blog with the content and sharing about aspects of vibrational medicine, aspects of crystal healing, and numerous publications. We actually are working on a new facet through my platform of research and development, and have a wonderful team of interns that are looking at different areas of research and science, from not only essential oils, but vibrational healing, and working with the different aspects of meditation, which there's incredible research on. Now, the particular aspect or form, facet of meditation that you'll find in the DNA book, and also on the Zenergy Medicinals YouTube, which there are free meditations there, as well as my platform, the Adora Winquist YouTube channel, are my kind of curated perspective and how I work with meditation using the alchemical aspects from the essential oils and the crystals. I hope that answers your question. If not, please feel free to query.
Yes, it does. Thank you for that. Did you happen to mention your website? I didn't catch that.
I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay. Thank you, Anne.
Yep.
Also, did you mention anything about your own background, how this all evolved for you?
Oh, sure. I'm happy to share about that. So essentially, this is a great story talking to you on the Vineyard, because really my spiritual journey and my journey as a healer and my journey as an essential oil formulator and entrepreneur started on Cape Cod. And I moved there when I was about 19 or 20. And as a child, I was very much enamored by the natural world, by the plants, by the birds, by the water. And I felt much more comfortable there. I had just a sense of peace and connection that I really didn't find anywhere else. And so when I moved to the Cape at about 19, I got bronchitis. And every year I would get bronchitis twice, brought about by acute allergies. And at that time, I didn't have a lot of money and I didn't have health insurance. But somewhere I heard about herbs. So I went to a store on the Cape and I bought 5 different herbs: hyssop, thyme, eucalyptus, licorice root, and fresh ginger. And I bought a book and I went home and I made a tea. And I was amazed by how quickly I healed. In fact, I never had bronchitis again, even up as an adult. And so many people ask me for that formula. It is included in the book, in the Heart Activate section under the herb hyssop. And so really from that point, I was making teas, I was making tinctures. Any one of my friends or loved ones that didn't feel well and agreed to take something, I would make them a plant medicine. And then I found essential oils, and I knew that it would be my passion. And so I started some travel study to places like India, to see where the plants are grown. In fact, my jasmine still comes from there. We went to the fields in southern India and picked the jasmine just as it was opening at about 5:30 in the morning, because every essential oil the plant has to be picked at a certain time and then distilled within a certain time thereafter for the highest yield of essential oil to be there and the fullest range of the chemical constituents. Because essential oils are biochemical in nature, each one of them can have up to 300 different chemical constituents to help bring healing and awakening, to help us detox and nourish and activate. And so being able to travel and immerse myself in the culture there and also in Egypt really awakened such a burning desire to study more. And then I went to my first Reiki class. And after I received a Reiki attunement, I started to see colors around people. And I thought, well, this is really amazing. I want to experience more. But more than that, I started to see how using it on myself and my loved ones really helped to alleviate emotional imbalances and bring physical healing and spiritual awakening and expansion. And so that really started my journey working both with essential oils and vibrational healing. And then I decided to create a product line back in the mid-90s that was a synergy of those two things. So from there, I did attend the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, where I'm an instructor now for their Hands of Light workshops. And I've had a healing practice and a business, a product business, for over 20 years, also teaching on plant medicine, teaching on these aspects of personal growth and esoteric philosophy and different aspects of alchemy. And I think that one thing that was really core for me along my journey, when I was living on the Cape, I was about 2021, and I had endometriosis. And before that was diagnosed, I was seeing a physician, and basically it was a very challenging time because because endometriosis wasn't really well known then. And so he said, well, you're a woman and women are meant to suffer. Here's a script for pain medication, and then another script and another script and another script. And then, well, this pain must be just in your head. And so it wasn't until a surgery that they found that there was endometriosis. And after a couple of surgeries, they wanted to do a hysterectomy. And well, at that time I was 21 and knew that I was to have 2 children. So I couldn't follow that path and I had to find my own. And so that really forged a deeper bond with my study and healing application, not just with myself, but also with clients, to see what would work, what really could drive a significant and sustainable change in healing. And so that really furthered my path of working with both the essential oils and the energy medicine. And then, of course, from an entrepreneurial perspective, built, which at that time was one of the first companies combining aromatherapy from an organic and very clean perspective with energy infusion for working with the chakras, that ultimately became a national award-winning brand. And so that brand, I had hired a team and built that company, and left that after hiring a team, left that company a few years ago to go back to my practice and start writing this book and start working on some new projects, which has been really a wonderful and fulfilling time.
Adora, you spoke to sustainable change, and that's a good way to put it, because I think maybe we go through periods of, for myself, aromatherapy, or I swear I'm going to do the meditation, and I haven't reached sustainable yet. Do you have any pointers for how
That's a great question.
Get there?
I think sustainably and consistently are two really important pieces or sides of the same coin, because for sustainable shifts, we need consistency. And when we don't have consistency, it gives us the opportunity to look at our places of resistance, because we all have them. And once we can embrace the aspects of our own resistance that are typically held at the subconscious level, then we're able to have a much kinder and more compassionate relationship with ourselves. And in those moments where we have the choice, do I want to do something that honors me, that serves my highest health and happiness, and that nurtures me, we're much more likely to say yes to that. And so the consistency builds the sustainable shifts. And what I like to say is kind of the stepping stone method, right? That consistent positive intention and action creates a wonderful stepping stone to create more benevolent experiences and expressions of our health and our vibrancy and our creativity and our joy and our desire to be in deep, intimate relationships and give and receive love in really profound ways.
I like the way you said that as a stepping stone, but what do you do for exercise? Do you run? What do you do for physical exercise? And how do you talk yourself into doing it every day?
Yeah, that's such an important one. For a while, my biggest passion physically was tennis.
Tennis.
Playing tennis. I played when I was a teenager. I was very, very athletic, and then I got away from it. And then a few years ago, in my mid 40s, I started playing again, and I thought, I'm going to see if I can go back and play competitively. And I did it for a year, and it was wonderful to remember what it feels like to win from an athletic perspective, right? Especially when we're middle-aged. But I do notice that after I experienced an injury, I couldn't go back and play in the same way. And so now exercise for me really looks like a lot of swimming, which is, I love being in the water. I don't know if it's my Aquarian nature being the water bearer, but I just absolutely adore it, especially when it's salt water. That's very nurturing for me. I also have a Peloton bike at home, which those are great, especially when we don't have the capacity or maybe the schedule or the proximity to go to the gym. We can build our own fitness regime at home, whether it's walking, whether it's doing the Peloton bike. I also have a power plate machine, which is really a super cool kind of space age machine that helps to vibrate every muscle. They created it for the astronauts when they were going into space, so they could have a device to help them so their muscles wouldn't atrophy. So I'm really interested in creating a exercise space, a fitness space at home, because I know it's paramount for me, not just from a physical perspective, but all of the wonderful chemicals that get released from our brain for our healthy mood. Exercise for me is really, really critical for that. So just for overall energy and clarity. And I find that for me, because I'm right so often and I'm creative in that way, that exercise is what clears the clouds or that fogginess that we can sometimes get when we don't have enough movement. So again, I think it's always like the first time, if you haven't worked out in a while or whatever that regime is for you, because we all have our unique prescription for health and vitality. For some people, high impact exercise is wonderful, but for some, it's not. For some, yoga is just a wonderful way to move our bodies that really is an incredible workout, but a little bit more gentle. So once you take those first steps, and I think get in past day 3, you have the desire. I think we all have that innate desire for health and harmony and evolution in that regard. And so it becomes easier and easier to get back to those healthy.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love the way you say evolution, as it is hard. It is hard, and I like that talk to yourself, like you're doing this for yourself, and ignore the little voice in the background.
Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. Yeah, I love what you were saying. That really comes into our aspects with mood and brain function, right? And so when we think about the brain and being able to regulate mood, exercise is such an important part of that, but also to notice the patterns of negative self-talk that we have, right? That we don't have to be controlled by our thoughts, by our feelings. We can train ourselves to be able to harness those. And before, the bus goes on a free fall down the canyon, we can harness those and bring it back to a place of cohesion and healthy self-talk and healthy practices of self-care.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant. I wrote that down. Andrea's asking, and this I am also very curious as to what oil or herbs, if you could only pick a few, would you pick to support healing and spiritual awakening? So that's like 2 questions.
Mm-hmm. I love nettle.
Oh.
If I had to pick one herb, it would probably be nettle, because it is perhaps one of the top herbs for vitamins and minerals and nutrients. And when we talk about addressing our physicality, that also, from the perspective of infinite healing, addresses our spiritual nature as well. Because when we are feeling good in our bodies, right, and we're giving ourselves that healthy nourishment, nettles are wonderful for the adrenal system, which is so key. Because so many of us have different levels of adrenal fatigue. When we're having the nettles, it nourishes us so deeply at the cellular level. And when we feel good, we are easier in a path of alignment and energy flow, right? And so when we're feeling good, and then we invite our intention for expanded spiritual connection, that just opens up in a very simple way, right? In a very easeful way, rather. From the perspective of an essential oil, I'm going to have to say lemon right now. Lemon is one of my favorite essential oils because it is energizing, it is uplifting. It's wonderful for the lymphatic system, so helping us clear and let go from a physiological perspective, but also from an energetic perspective. If you're looking to create a spray for your home to help lift the energy and keep it clear, lemon is a wonderful essential oil for that. And remember, when you're using any citrus oil, you'll want to purchase an organic, because the pesticide goes on the rind, and the rind is what is expeller pressed and where we get the essential oil. And so, of course, even if you're using it for body care, or if you have a super high grade essential oil, 1 drop to a very large bottle of water helps the body in the detox phase, but also in the phase of expansion, because helping us to garner that greater clarity from the mental perspective and from a spiritual perspective. It's so versatile, and it's so bright and cheerful, and so wonderful too in the winter when we're really missing the sun. And, I was thinking when I was on the vineyard these past couple of weeks and what it's like in the winter. And I can remember what it was like on Cape Cod and how sometimes the dampness and the grayness was just so debilitating, right? Not just from an achy physical place, but from that emotional and mental place too. And so lemon essential oil is great to bring mental acuity. In fact, they did a study in Japan many, many years ago where they piped lemon essential oil through the ventilation system of an office building and found that the staff had a higher rate of productivity and less of a rate of errors. So it's definitely one to add to your arsenal.
Oh, I'm
Your
gonna try
aromatic
that.
arsenal.
I'm doing that. That's an easy one. But the nettles, how
Yeah.
do you prepare nettles? Are you drinking a nettle tea or eating a nettle
Mhm.
salad or a soup?
A nettle tea would be great.
Tea?
Nettle tea. And it's also wonderful that you can mix some other herbs in there and make your tea, and then even have it in the refrigerator and add some lemon to that. Makes a wonderful iced tea. Sometimes I like to mix the nettles with, I mentioned to you, the Jamaica here, the hibiscus that I'm drinking, hibiscus tea, which is a wonderful digestive aid. And it's just so bright and uplifting. So you could add, because the nettles have almost like a very green and kind of sea-like flavor to them. So adding some hibiscus is nice. You could add some lavender if you wanted to have it for a tea in the morning. You could add some Tulsi to it if you wanted to have a tea for the morning. Tulsi is a wonderful adaptogenic herb, wonderful for the immune system, for the adrenal system, for the digestive system, and for mental clarity as well. So it's, again, a very versatile oil, and you'll find a lot about Tulsi, both as an essential oil and an herb, in our book.
Oh, I will look that one up.
Speaking of the hibiscus.
There you go. Have a sip. Have a sip. I'm curious if you do yoga yourself after having a Peloton and then tennis, are very, very active. Can you transition into yoga?
Yes, I find now that I'm older, I enjoy it more. I used to, like, my go-to class would be a spin class. So I always like the faster, the more high impact, with my headphones on and the music cranked with something probably from the 1980s pop world. But I find now that there's a beauty of the gentleness about it. In fact, they have a yoga class here on Thursday that I'll be going to, which I think will be really nice. But that stretching as we age, I think, is so important, and to keep our body limber, especially when we've had a lot of athletic experiences in the past, when in our younger days, when we don't continue the movement, it's not so good.
No, it's not good.
Doesn't feel so good. Yeah.
No, and I'm very impressed that you're able to talk yourself into these things. I'm gonna give myself a talking to tomorrow and get up and move. And
You can do
train
it.
my
I
body.
believe in you, Anne.
Really? Oh my gosh. It's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that's a hurdle for me. But
It's also great to have an accountability partner.
Okay. Nev, darling, I know you're here. You want to be my accountability partner?
Yeah, if it works both ways.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Of
Awesome.
course.
Sounds wonderful.
I love it. Synergy, symbiotic synergy.
Wonderful. I'm wondering, can we put the link for your book? I'm hoping it's available from your website, of course, and maybe from Amazon also.
It is. It's available. Leanne, if you're here, or Chantel, if you wouldn't mind putting the link, and in a second, I'll do a screen share and show you the cover of it, because it's so beautiful. But yes, the link is the book is available on my website for a signed copy. And then, of course, on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com as well. And we're working on adding more locations all the time, which is wonderful. Let me go ahead and do a screen share and hope that I'm successful in that.
I'm sure you will be.
Hmm.
You're close.
Okay, maybe I have to.
Down, yep. Set it up, minimize,
Oh, here we
minimize our.
go. Switch to gallery. Hmm. Oh, remove spotlight, maybe?
No, that shouldn't be, it shouldn't, but I mean, I can do that, but that shouldn't be it. So there you're sharing the screen, but we need to see,
Do you see the book cover now?
no, let me pull it up. I just see your name, but that's I'm on your YouTube channel, which also, I'm gonna just go through all of those.
Oh,
So
great.
interested about the Mary and Magdalene meditation. Can you speak to
Oh,
that?
gosh. Yeah, let me tell you about that because this is really wonderful. And so since I'm not sharing the screen successfully, sorry about that.
That's it.
I'll just come back. Okay, so essentially about a little over 2 years ago in meditation, I was asked to take a group of like-minded souls to the south of France to follow the footsteps of Mary Magdalene. And so I thought, well, gee, what a wonderful idea. And so we were able to curate an experience with Body, Mind, Spirit Journeys, which is a company that's been creating tours to different sacred sites around the globe for over 30 years. And so this September, in fact, there are a few spaces left if anyone is interested. There is a group that I'll be leading, and we start in Marseille at the end of September, right after the equinox. And we will tour for 6 days, going to these beautiful sacred sites, following the footsteps of Mary Magdalene, and really connecting in with the sacred mysticism, not only of her, but of the divine feminine and the land there in this area, which has some beautiful, beautiful locations to Provence and to Toulouse and some of these different areas in between. And along that journey, I'll be doing ceremony and initiation through meditation daily with the group, using the alchemy of the essential oils and the crystals, and working with invoking the presence and healing energy of Mary Magdalene. And so with the understanding that she was a high-level spiritual initiate and the apostle and adept of Christ. And so working with these specific aspects of her transmissions and healing energy from faith and surrender and divine love and the energies of sacred sexuality. We'll be doing a lot of healing work around that, the 6 days of the trip. And so the meditations that you see on YouTube, we've had every month since January as a way to build the platform and prepare everyone that's coming on the trip with these wonderful healing meditations. So I think you'll really enjoy them. We've had our attendees have had some really profound experiences, and in the meditation and afterward, just shifts of consciousness, of self-understanding, of healing, of openings in their own personal lives.
Marvelous. I'm going to quickly share the cover of the book. So you can
Thank
see.
you.
There we are. No problem.
Thank you, Anne.
Oh, yeah, no, I think Ali had it too, but I'm just jumping in here. DETOX
Wonderful.
Medicine Activate, and we'll get a copy of this for the library also. So
Oh,
yeah,
thank
we
you
can get it
so
from the
much. That would be
library.
wonderful.
Oh yes. Oh yes, it's wonderful.
The
Wonderful.
cover is so exquisite. Patsy Balaki from Xenautica is a dear friend and has been my creative designer director for the past 20 years. And so she created this really, truly exquisite book cover that has, if you look closely, all the nuances from the alchemical perspectives from the plants. You'll see some sacred geometry in there. You'll see some animals in there. And of course, the botanicals and aspects of the sea. And so, you know, every time I look at this, and every person that I speak to is just feels such a sense of connection, almost magnetized to the cover, because I think it speaks volumes.
Marvelous. I'm gonna put that in the chat also. And Nev is asking if the workshops, do you give workshops in person and in USA
Yes.
or Mexico? Yeah, in person. Yes. It's a question we need to ask these days.
Yeah, I love in-person workshops. They are my favorite. I mean, I offer a weekly and sometimes a few meditations, complimentary meditations every month. And so that's a wonderful resource for you to check out. If you subscribe to our newsletter, you find out everything that's happening. And then I'm in the process of building out the workshop and educational platform that will come from the teachings in the book. And I'm really excited about this because teaching is such a passion of mine. And I love being able to connect and facilitate things like the meditations, like ceremony and initiations, and then also sharing the wisdom from the plants in blending products, which is a really big thing that we generally do at any in-person program that I offer. We're always blending with the essential oils, because what's possible when we make our own medicine is that because of course we have that innate wisdom within us, we know on a very deep level what we need to heal and to grow and to nurture ourselves. And when we're able to create our own medicine and then infuse it with our intention, because the essential oils are malleable to our intention, we can really create something that is incredibly potent, that is true alchemy and can heal us on very deep levels. So if you're interested in the workshop program, please do subscribe to the newsletter on the Adora Winquist website.
Yes, I think we're all going to do that right now. I'm going to remove the spotlight and see if anybody has any questions. But I mean, you touched on so many things. I think it's just too hard to even remember what to ask. Let's see if I can. Whoops.
I have a question, or maybe it's really an observation. This is Nevenka. Adora, I see a certain sense of, I want to call it illumination from you. It's sort of like a real happiness, and it feels very authentic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. You know, I think that when we're living our Dharma, when we've found our purpose and we've reached the tipping point in our own healing process and bringing balance to our female aspects, our male aspects, our child consciousness, then our soul purpose really can anchor and then actualize. And then that's when the work really becomes our joy. And so, you know, one of the things when I was writing this book, I was going through over 20 years of my journals and notes on working with the plants, notes on my formulas, notes with my clients, and also my own healing journey through all of the different aspects. I realized that for me, it was really an opportunity of transcendence, that I was taking everything that I had learned and assimilated up until this point in my life and then able to offer it through the manuscript, through the book, as a way for other people to know that regardless of what you've experienced in your life and what levels of pain or trauma or suffering, that there is a way out, there is a pathway, and you're not alone, right? And so in this book, our deep desire and longing is for you to feel that and immerse yourself in the potent alchemy from all of these aspects of the natural world, all of these elements of esoteric philosophy, and these critical applications of psycho-spiritual dynamics, because until we can get into our subconscious layers and bring the light of divine consciousness there, those aspects of our being continue to project and attract distortion and dysfunction. And so, you know, there is liberation in that, and there is great joy in that process and in the journey.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, do you find that physically moving, as in changing your surroundings, helps with that? Because you moved to Mexico, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for me, it definitely does. I can't speak for everyone, but I know for my spirit, being in different places, I start to get a little bit, I don't know, jungle fever if I'm in one place for too long. So travel for me is a pathway to expansion that is imperative for my health, for my soul work, right? For my expression and for my ability to experience different aspects of myself, because you know how it is when we get caught into our day-to-day mundane experience of life, whether it's work or with our partners or with our children or those that we are caregivers for, that it's really easy to become complacent. And complacency does not allow for our authenticity and our highest aspects of being to surface. You know, we've got to shake it up, and we've got to find, whether it's that exercise or the right foods, the right aspect of meditation and intention, and working with the plant medicine is such a powerful transformer and healing agent, right? These plants and these minerals have so much medicine for us to heal and grow and awaken and understand with. So for me, definitely being in different places is helpful. Even in the writing of the book, you know, I didn't write in one specific area the whole time. And in fact, my partner is, he is in the military, so he travels for work. So sometimes I would be in a hotel with all of my papers. And that was a wonderful, like, little cocoon for me to go deeper in some of the areas that I was looking to access within myself to be able to write.
So we're going to stop here because that's a lot to think about. And if we have more questions, we can ask on your website.
Of course, and you can
your
email.
book will answer a lot of questions also, I'm sure.
Yes.
Are marvelous.